So, can you tell me about your trip to Washington, D.C.?
Okay, on the road trip to Washington, D.C., when we first started out, it was raining, and it rained on us for 4 days. We didn't see the sun for 4 days. So my first stop was in Coffeyville, Kansas. I still have a cousin there that's my age, so I stopped by to see her. So we stayed in Coffeyville over the 4th of July because we didn't want to be on the road on the 4th of July. So we just stayed in Coffeyville over the 4th of July. So when we left Coffeyville, our next stop was, let's see if I can remember now. Where did we go? Oh, our next stop after we left Coffeyville was St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, in St. Louis, we went by and visited the arch, you know, that arch thing in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
So we went by and visited that. And let's see, our next stop was, I think our next goal was Dayton, Ohio. And we stayed in Dayton, Ohio a couple of days. We went by the Packard Museum in Dayton, Ohio, and took pictures of some of the nice classic cars they had there. Then we went to Paul Laurence Dunbar's home. Paul Laurence Dunbar was a black poet back in the day that was popular. So we went by the, oh, did I stop it again?
Oh no, I was just moving it out your way.
Why didn't you tell me to turn that down? Well, so we went by the Paul Laurence Dunbar house and took pictures of it. And there was a lady that I grew up with that lives in Dayton. So we went by, and my son and I, we went by and called her and went by and took her out to dinner. And the next morning we headed on to D.C. In D.C., we took one of those tours where you tour the monuments and things. So we went to the Smithsonian, the Lincoln Memorial, the King Monument, and took pictures at all these places, of course. And I guess we pretty much visited all the memorials and monuments there in D.C. And that's hard work because it was hot and humid, and not all those buses on the tours were air conditioned. Some of them were just open windows,
Can't do it.
and it was a lot of walking.
So, did you get up early to start the day to go look at
The
everything?
tour started at 9 o'clock, as I recall, so we had to be there at 9 o'clock to catch the first tour.
Mm.
And then you could get off at any monument and tour that monument, stay as long as you want, and go back up to where the buses came. The buses would be running by all the time, and you could just you get on the tour that you had signed up for. You could just get on that bus and go to the next stop and stay at that stop as long as you want, and then come back out, and when you saw one of your buses, you could just get on that, and so on and so on.
What stop did you stay at long?
We stayed the one that had the Lincoln Memorial and the King Memorial the longest, I guess.
How was it? Or
Well, it was interesting, I guess. We took pictures and walked around. A lot of walking.
your feet were hurting?
No, it's just hot and a lot of walking. And a lot of people, crowded. And then we went to the White House
Mm.
and took pictures out in front of the White House. I was kind of disappointed because they got the White House all fenced off now where you can't get as close as you used to could. And but other than that, all in all, it was a good trip.
And this, the White House, this is when Obama was in office or Trump?
Obama, thank God.
Well, you want to tell me about any, in details, any of your other trips, or?
I went to New Orleans. Okay, the trip to New Orleans, let's see, typically, we went to Ethel's hometown first when we went to New Orleans. And we called us Ethel's relatives, Jamie, Willie James, and Johnny Peril, and we all went out to dinner.
Are those her cousins, or?
Uh-huh.
Were those her cousins?
In Mendon, New Orleans, it's a little town outside of Shreveport.
Oh, okay.
We went to dinner over in Shreveport. And then we stayed there that night, and let's see, I'm trying to remember where our next stop was.
The relatives that you went to visit of grandma's, were those her cousins or aunts, or who were they?
They were your grandma's cousins.
Okay.
And then we went to New Orleans. And the biggest thing we did in New Orleans was the Bourbon Street thing. You know, you eat, we would go in the restaurants and eat, of course. And then we walked up and down and went in and out of all the clubs and things on Bourbon Street. But the street was all torn up. They were putting in some drain piping, and it was kind of a mess because it was fenced off, and you could only cross it at the end of the block. You couldn't cross in the middle of the block like you normally could in Bourbon Street. So it was kind of it made doing Bourbon Street a long trip because you had to go to the corners and then go back up to go to a place you wanted to go to. But all in all, it turned out to be a trip. But then they started predicting a rainstorm coming in there, so we left a day early to beat the rain that was predicted to come in there.
Oh, I have a question. When you say you went to Louisiana, did you take the whole family with you?
No, it was just Brian and I.
Okay.
Again.
Okay. Now, your 3 children, they have kids of their own, correct?
Correct.
So, did all of you, grandchildren and all, do any family trips?
We went to a family reunion once where Sharon took all her family, and Carla took all her family, and Brian and I and his family went with me. And Ethel went with Sharon and her family. And it was a family reunion in Mendon, Louisiana.
And this was grandma's family, or her side?
Yeah.
How long was that trip?
I stayed there one day, and then we went back to Kansas where my parents were, and Ethel and them stayed. I think the reunion lasted a couple of days. They stayed a couple of days, and they almost beat us back here.
Oh.
They left a day after we did and almost beat us back. So your mother must have really been driving.
Now,
How much time?
we got seconds left. So, any final thoughts? Or anything you just want to tell me about?
Well, I'm sorry I didn't remember more in detail, and that I never thought anybody would be asking me specific questions about trips and things. But
It's okay.
that's what happens when you get old. You have CRS. So the CRS is set in badly. But anyway, I hope this satisfies your class project.
Thank you, it does. One last question of my own. Is there anything that 'Cause I know some families have stories or things that they pass down. Is there anything that you um, would want to pass down for generations and generations of our family?
No, I don't have any stories like that.
Any sayings? Any no?
Nope. Like I said, when my grandparents were all dead when I was a kid, so I don't have any grandparents that were around telling you stories and stuff.
Okay. Thank you.